Thank you for joining EAC Product Development Solutions for our live webinar today. So today we're going to be talking about how Onshape is a CAD platform entirely based in the cloud and how beneficial that is going to be for your workforce and for our workforce. So before we jump in, I'd like to let everyone know that we do have more webinars. If you want to check those out, feel free to go to onshape.eacpds.com/events. All right, with that, I will hand things over to Bill so he can show us around Onshape.
Thanks, Sierra, and thank you everybody for attending today. I'm just gonna really hit on one slide before we get into the software. Onshape is more than just CAD in the cloud. There's a lot of different aspects to it, and we're gonna go over a lot of these today. There's aspects of data management, being able to control the information that you generate. Workflows, once we have information in the cloud, we need to control how it's moving through the company. So we're going to talk about release management, things like that. Certainly communication is important, and there's a variety of ways of accessing information and exchanging information using Onshape. There's a huge mobile aspect to this where we can access information via phone, really any kind of web browser we can get at and work with Onshape. And then there's also task management, right? That kind of goes along with workflows and data management to be able to control who does what and when. So with that being said, let's take a look at Onshape itself. This is when I log in. This would be like my home page. Across the top here are files that I've recently worked on. Below are folders that either I have created or I have access to. There's over here, there's an app store. I have the ability to get additional functionality to work with Onshape. That could be finite element analysis, toolpaths, photorealistic rendering, things like that. There's also a learning center. This is really important. There's a lot of different online training classes for free that you can use to learn Onshape. Also webinars and tips and techniques and things like that. One of the things I wanted to touch on also is sort of the way that Onshape looks at things. So this is a list of all the people in my company that have access to Onshape. We can organize those people in terms of teams. I could create engineering teams or manufacturing teams, create your own team over here in the upper right. And there's also aspects I mentioned before of sort of release management. So here's the built-in release management workflow, and we'll take advantage of that today. In addition to that, there's also the ability to automatically use part numbering generation system that's built into Onshape. So we can assign a prefix, how many characters we want in it, and then we can get previews of the information that we have in Onshape and what the part numbering will look like for that. So with that, let's go back to Onshape, and I'm gonna call up a part here and start working with this. So it's already partially completed. And really one of the things I've done is I've taken advantage of what Onshape will allow me to do, and that's basically branching off different ideas. I could have an idea, I'm going to select on it here. You'll notice I made basically 3 different branches. Think of this as the history, everything that I've created. And at a certain point, I could branch off and say, I want to try a different idea and see how that works. And I could try another idea. And another, so I'm not having to do a bunch of save as and erase things out of memory to call up the new one and worry about file management and all that kind of stuff. I can just create different branches. So for instance, I could say, let's look at the right support idea that I have. And so here we have another component, and it would support the shaft over on the right side. So we have one for the center and the left. So a couple of different ideas. I really want to tap into other expertise in the company to kind of get their idea to do, sort of a design review of this. So to start off with, there's a big bright blue button over here for sharing this. And what I want to do is share what I have here with somebody else and get their input on it. So I'm going to share it with one of our employees, Nick. And we'll say, let's have Nick be able to view this. And then I can also control what aspects as he's viewing. Can he export it after, while he's viewing it, save it out as a different file type? I don't really want him to do that. Really, he can comment on it and really look at it. So not only can control if he can just view it, but then when he's viewing it, other aspects of it. So I can really dial in exactly what I want. So with this, I'm going to share this with Nick. So I'm going to say share. And we'll close this window. And I'm going to open up my browser a little bit over here. And so this is Nick's phone. And so if he goes to Onshape, I can't pick, got to pick it on the phone. And you can kind of refresh this. We can see that he has a part that's sharing with him. So he's just going to select that. And now we can see exactly what we're looking at here. And what I can do is start doing some communications with him using a built-in comment. And I could say, you know, like, let's review. And I can add that comment. And so Nick over here has comment capabilities as well. And he could say, you know, okay. So here's the note that we got for this. I'll kind of close that. So he's looking at what I'm looking at. One of the things that we can do is kind of look at this right information that we have here and take a look at it. One of the aspects that Nick can do is he can go over and say, I kind of want to follow what you're doing. So now as I zoom around, you'll notice that in his window, it's zooming the same way. You'll also notice where my mouse is, he has a little hand. So I could say, you know, the shaft is going in here, and we can communicate using the chat window. Now, again, we could also be talking because obviously Nick's on a phone, so he could be talking to me as well as we're going through this design review. So we're looking at the first one here. The next one I want to look at is maybe the left side one. So Nick can go over and say, okay, let's look at left. He can just come over here and select the left one. Say, open that up. So again, he can review that. I'm just taking my finger on my phone. That's how I can rotate it. If I move my fingers apart, I zoom in, move them together, zoom out. He can look at that review. I could add another comment in here and say, let's look at the center one, the center idea. Add that. And again, he gets the same comment here. He'll come over, kind of go back. Let's go back to our part here for a second. And he can look at the center idea. And I'll do the same, right? So we're just conducting kind of an informal design review, but I just wanted to get his input as to, you know, what he thinks about this. So looking at this, I kind of like this idea. Nick can kind of take a look at it, kind of zoom in, get different aspects of it. And then he can send me a comment back. Let's say, you know, I like the center idea. So, and I also kind of agree with that. So if I go over here, he says he likes the center, you know, I can just say, you know, me too. Reply back to him. So even though he's not in the office, he's not in any office, but he does have his phone with me. I can solicit some information from him, kind of benefit some knowledge that he has. And with that, I could just say, okay, great, thanks. Talk to you later. So Nick will kind of go back to doing whatever he was doing. I like this idea. Now, again, if we go back to our main branch that we saw here, our main history branch, if I look at it here, we really haven't decided on which one to do. Now, with Nick's help, I decided that the center idea is the best one. So I just right mouse button and say merge that in with our design. And we can see that we now have that incorporated into our design. If I were to go over here and take a look at a drawing, there's a little yellow button up here to update the drawing. When I select on that, you notice that it adds the new addition of the geometry we have with the cross sections. And now I can start to, now that I have an idea that I want to go forward with, I can start documenting this and continue on with my design real easily. So that's our first example. The next one, I'm going to take a look at a plastic cover part. And this is just a part design that I have here that I'm working on. I'm going to also go in and say, well, let's let's share this with Nick as well. We'll say, we'll pick Nick again. And same type of thing, I just really want him to view this. This time when I say, let's share it with Nick, close that, he gets a message, you notice right away over here, Bill has shared a document with you. And he's saying, hey, the guy's always sharing documents with me. So I can pick here and take a look at it, or I can hit the X and ignore him. So I'm just gonna hit the X. So here's me back here. I'm gonna go in and say, let's make some changes to our part here. And so I have kind of a sketch up here on a plane, and I'm going to use some functionality called wrap. But really what wrap allows me to do is project something down onto a surface and then do something with it once it gets there. So I'm going to say, let's wrap, and we're going to say, pick these projections, and the target we want to put it on is this top face here. And I don't want it to be a surface projection. I'm going to say, let's make it a solid. Let's remove material. And then let's not make the holes all the way through. Let's make them kind of part way through, kind of to make a boss in there, or kind of emboss it there. So here's this design that I've been working on. I kind of like this. If we look at the history of this part, we can see that, you know, there's the version 1 here. I kind of like this embossed version. So I'm going to say, I'm going to put something in here and just call it you know, the embossed version that I'm saving. So this is saved a moment in time into the history. And once I have it here, I think this is a good design going forward. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make use of the release management software that we have built in. And I'm just going to say, I want to release this. So here's our part. I'm going to say automatically generate a part number for that. So we can see that here. You can see that automatically increments things here. So I'm just going to say, let's take that and we'll call it, you know, maybe like ECN, because it is really kind of an engineering change order, and give it that part name. For my release notes, I could just say, you know, I added an embossment. I hope you spell it right. I guess not. Yeah. Well, I'm just going to say emboss. And then who do I want to be as an observer, or who do I want to approve this? In this case, I want Nick to approve this. So I'm going to put him in as an approver, and now I can say submit. So I want to submit this to Nick. So now he gets some information saying, you're part of the release process that Bill has put together. So you can select on this, and you can see this is his interface to the release. So he's sitting on his phone. I don't have to wait for him to get back to the office. He doesn't let it sit around in his inbox. He can just react and help me out right away. So he hasn't really taken a look at this part at all, because remember, he ignored my first thing to share the part with him. So he can go over to details and just say, let's open up the part. So you can see the part here. You can see, you know, the new information that I've added, that embossment. It looks pretty good. So you can just kind of come back here and say, hit the release, maybe put in a comment, you know, it looks good. And then he'll say, release it. So now you notice a note comes up saying that this has been released. I also get a note right here under the messages saying the release and it is in a state of release. I can kind of also verify this if I wanted to. If I come and take a look at it, when something gets submitted to be released, it gives you a different icon along the history tree. As you can see here, it's sort of an open triangle, which means it's sort of a release candidate. It hasn't been released yet. And if I refresh this, we can see now it is updated and it is released. I could even kind of verify over here. If I select on this, I can see the green around Nick's name means that it is approved. If you would have rejected it, there would be red around there. And obviously it'd say it was rejected. So Nick can kind of close things out and relax a little bit as I continue on with my work. I'm going to go back, kind of close out this document. It's been released. Now I can start to develop some other aspects of that, or maybe release it to manufacturing. I'm going to call up another part here. And this is kind of an envelope of an enclosure that I want to have created for a design that we're working on. I need to design the PC board and things that will go in this, but I need someone to help me develop this enclosure. So why not have Nick do that? I'm going to come over here. And well, first of all, let's go in the history here. Take a look at this part. So far we've got the cover design. We're kind of in the state of the cover development. What I'm going to do is make a branch here, and I'm going to say, we can just call it like Nick's idea. So I've actually made a branch in the history, and I'm going to have Nick work on that branch so he won't affect what I'm working with here. But then if I like what he develops, I can obviously incorporate it in like I did earlier on with that center support idea that we had. So with this, I want to share this with Nick. In this case, we're going to say that he can edit this. And I still don't want him to export everything. So I share it with Nick. And then actually I can put in a comment. I'm also going to send him a comment. And I'm just going to say, and I can direct it directly to him, just say @Nick. And just say, can you develop a cover for this? And I'm going to assign it to him. Right? So this actually assigns him a task that he needs to kind of follow through on. So I'm going to say, let's assign that. That means you're going to share it with Nick. Yes, I am. So now he gets a message right away. We can see that it says, you've been assigned a task. Tap here to open it up. So he selects on that. And I can send him a message and say, hey, take a look at the branch that I made you. So he looks at the branch, Nick's idea. So he can start working on that. So I can continue developing the part over here, making some drawings, making an assembly, while Nick over in this side starts working with this. So he has to develop a cover. Right now, you notice that he just has down here in the bottom, just read capability, so he can make cross sections and things like that. So what he's going to do is add a comment, need edit capabilities, add that. And obviously I see that right here. It's like, oh, sorry. Go back to here and we'll change this. And we'll say, let's make them edit. We'll update that. So that's really all he has to do, is just kind of refresh his screen. And you notice now his screen is different. He doesn't have the icons down here that a viewer would have, but now he has full capability. This is mobile CAD, so it's really, really unique, is that he can start creating geometry here. So he's going to select on the features that we have available, and all the features are here. He's going to say, let's make a sheet metal component of this. And he can kind of zoom in around here. Let's move this guy up. Something like this. All right, so he wants to create a sheet metal enclosure from this. First thing he's going to do is select on the part. Then you can say pick some faces to remove. We'll remove the back face, the bottom, kind of spin it around. Where do we want to add some bends? We could say add a bend there. So I'm just picking with my fingers on my phone to create this sheet metal enclosure. I can zoom in and on here, can see everything looks good. I'm back, let's go back here. I'm looking at his version. Basically, I would have been in my version, right, looking at this. But when he's finished, he can send me a comment, you know, and just say, you know, take a look. I can see the information here. Take a look. So I go over, take a look. See this version that he's come up with? It actually looks pretty good. I like it. It was pretty quick the way he got it done. I can even look at it from the standpoint of kind of a flattened out version of it if I want to. What I'm going to do is, since I like this idea, I'm going to go and, like we did before, I'm going to take my main design, because I didn't know originally what he was going to come up with. But I'm going to say, I like this. I'm going to merge this in. So now we can see the main idea now has the main branch has this. Further taking a look at it, we could see the flat pattern has been developed. We can see the bend radius. Again, if I need to make changes here, I can enter this, the changes I want either in the table or in the part. But you know, from the standpoint of Nick, he's developed a good tool, all while he was on his phone. And now I've gone through a couple of different examples here of making use of the capabilities of Onshape. We did a design review with somebody who was on their phone. We did a release, so he was able to help us out in release management so that the design process could continue forward. And then finally, because we have the capability of working with CAD on our phone, he was actually able to create a sheet metal enclosure for me, give me the information that I needed while I was continuing to develop the overall idea. So the whole idea of the communication, being in the cloud, easily being able to access Onshape, and more importantly, we're accessing the same model. I'm not sending him copies, or I'm not doing a save as, or anything like that. He's working on the models that I'm working on. If I want to keep it separate, you notice that we just made a branch. And then he can work on the branch. If I like it, I keep it, I merge it in. If I don't, I ask him to either do something else, or I'll do it myself, or find somebody else. It's very easy to just go to a share and send it off to somebody else in our company to get some help. So really, that's really what I wanted to cover today, is kind of the different aspects of working with Onshape, but working with it a lot just using the phone. In fact, 1 out of 8 people that access Onshape access it with their phone. Right? So they might not be modeling parts like we saw here with Nick making a sheet metal part, but they can do design reviews, they can take place or take working with release management or other aspects that we haven't really even covered here yet today. So great communication tool in all different aspects. With that, I think we're going to draw this to a close, and I'm going to turn it back to Sierra.
All right, thank you, Bill, for showing us some really helpful features in Onshape, like you mentioned, both on your computer and on your phone. I don't see any questions in the chat.